Okay, please, for the love of God, do not have any trouble with the stream. Please don't. I think we're good. I'm sorry, I disconnected. I had to do that troubleshooting thing that I literally tried doing last week. Or I'm sorry, Brandon tried. Sorry, I'm out of character. Anyway, so I was talking earlier about the Reaper and Limoman and how they were in an intense gambling match. Poker. Wait, no, it was blackjack. An intense game of blackjack. It looked like the Reaper was going to win. Right, I was talking about what the Reaper would do to those who would miraculously win. What ended up happening was he would spike the winner's drink with a drug that would end up killing them after a while, like a few hours. That's his way of reaping their souls. So he wasn't an actual Grim Reaper. It's just he got that name through his notoriety, and he became a very malicious force. Anyway, what happened this time around wasn't quite the same, although Limoman did win, because he was incredibly skilled, and unlike Reaper, who always played aggressively, Limoman was very strategic. But what ended up happening was, essentially, Limoman ended up winning. And Reaper congratulated him. However, unbeknownst to Limoman, his victory would end up being short-lived like those who have also beaten Reaper, but his end wouldn't be the same as theirs. Because basically what would happen is Reaper ended up inviting John, this Limoman, to the pool. This pool right here. And what ended up happening was, well, it's a good thing that I'm not monetized, or Brandon isn't, because what I'm about to say is very, very graphic. While Limoman was hanging out in the hot tub, Reaper grabbed a knife and slit Limoman's throat. Afterwards, he smothered him with a wet towel to block out any airflow, similar to how waterboarding worked, before it was outlawed. And the thing is, this was when the pool was closed. No one was there. At least, not until morning. Because the Reaper had already left, and Limoman was limp in the hot tub. His blood poured out of his throat, filling the hot tub. But unbeknownst to most people, what the Reaper did after he slit his throat and tried to smother Limoman merely went unconscious for a little while, but he woke up just long enough to go to his limo and leave a bloody handprint on his car. Then, with the last of his strength, he stumbled back over to the hot tub in hopes that someone would see him whenever he inevitably passed away. And someone did, albeit it was a woman who let out a blood-curdling scream, terrifying everyone within the vicinity of the casino. And to everyone's shock and horror, it turned out that the great Limoman, the great honorable soul that he was, was slain at night. Then people walked over to his limo, seeing that his bloody handprint was on the van. No, not van, limo. A coroner confirmed that yes, it was his blood, after he had left his handprint there to let people know that something had happened to him. Because he otherwise wouldn't do that to his own car. But then things took a turn for the weird. For you see, this tale doesn't end at a man who lost his life, but rather the limo that gained his life. This story is the story of the possessed limo of Las Fortunas. A limo who searches for the desperate, the angry, the despicable, and the greedy. Desperate for what, you may say? Desperate for money? Desperate for attention? Or is it desperate to be known in the criminal underworld? Well, when it comes to desperation, it can either be from a bad circumstance in life or something a little bit more malicious. And that's exactly what this limo preys on, is those who it detects have a malicious intent in their life. Whether it be murderous, through greed, or anything along those lines, Limoman's limo lives on as a predatory vehicle that stalks the streets of Las Fortunas at night, hoping to seek out any unfortunate prey that dare cross its path. Now, what can I say about this limo? Well, it's got a pearly white paint job. It is a vehicle from our world, obviously. It is a Chronicle Royale. And in your world, I believe it would be a Lincoln Town and Country, I think that's what it's called. Yeah. It's one of those limos, but he bought it himself after he grew fascinated with them, and he bought himself a custom built one. And the reason why it was colored white is because it would represent his goodwill, his good soul. Because other than, disturbing and dangerous individuals in the world, he wouldn't hurt anyone unless his life was in danger. He would always do what's right for other people. Then we have the gold accents, a reference to his immeasurable wealth, which he would oftentimes use to donate to the needy and to charity. The custom poker chip rims are, of course, a sentiment to his casino-loving demeanor. And finally, a special little antenna bopper that would be a top hat, a reference to his very own top hat that he always loved to wear. This limousine wasn't just an average car. It was his pride and joy, his bread and butter. It was his way to get around the place. He would always take young kids and young teens out to where they need to go and then take them right back to where they needed to be. He would get groceries for those who needed food. Despite him being part of a mob, or rather being a mob boss himself, just like Reaper, he was... Oh, okay. I almost disconnected. Please don't. Please don't disconnect. Okay, anyway. So the limo itself, if it sees that someone is good of heart, so like, if it sees that someone has a good heart, as in, you know, like, someone who is a good-natured person, someone who rarely has ever done anything bad in their life aside from when they were a lot younger and didn't really know any better, or if it's just someone who has led a good life, the limo will leave them alone and sometimes even offer them help through its radio, which will speak to them. However, if you're on the opposite side of the spectrum and decide to be a naughty little bastard, pardon the language, then let's just say that the limo won't be so kind and might even hunt you down. And let's just say that the limo's horn used to be beep 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 beep, but now the horn is a distorted version of that, where it's like or something along those lines, something that sounds disturbing and warped and distorted. Honestly, it sounds kind of cool when you hear it in person, but at the same time, you're probably going to be wetting yourself in fear. So, yeah. Anyway, with that being said, yeah, so that is the story of the limo man and his limousine. I know this was kind of short, partially because it had to be cut in two halves because, you know, I got disconnected for some dumb reason, so I had to update the settings on this, so hopefully Brandon won't be mad. But anyway, with that being said, thank you very much for sticking around. I hope you all have enjoyed this. This has been Rex Calvin, the usual host for these Radical Rewind streams. With that being said, though,